Thanks for coming out. Looks like we got a full house, so we'll get right to it. We'll start this evening, as we always do, by having the Pledge of Allegiance, and following that, we'll immediately have our invocation tonight by Pastor Dale Schatz of the Heritage Baptist Church. So if we could all stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for invocation.
Our Father, as we gather this evening, and we thank you for the privilege of being able to enter the throne room of Almighty God through the shed blood of the Lord Jesus Christ, our Redeemer. And you have said if we ask for wisdom, that you will give it. And so this evening, as this board has met and these people, we just pray for wisdom concerning our community here, our city. We just pray your blessing upon it. When we think of all the hate and division across our nation, how we cry out to you that we might continue here in unity and that which is good for everyone, not with a personal agenda to anyone. So, Lord, we call upon your blessing upon this time together. In Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen. Amen.
All right, we turn it over to Doug for approval of minutes.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the July 13, 2017 Board Work Session Meeting minutes.
So move.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Entertain a motion for the July 20th, 2017 Board of Directors regular meeting to approve those minutes.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Entertain a motion to approve the August 10th, 2017 executive session meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed?
Joshua, did you abstain? Did you vote?
I wasn't here, so I don't know what I'm voting for.
Would you like to abstain on that?
Vote for me.
Abstain?
Abstain, yes.
Okay. Abstain.
All right, I think it's all of those, huh?
That's it.
All right, many of you know that Linda Lloyd made an offer to purchase the Arkmo property, and she has presented that to us at 2 meetings and has asked to come back and make further comments this evening. So, Linda, the floor is yours.
I'd like to thank the board for the opportunity to make this presentation and apologize to the folks that get to look at my back. Make sure I can work this. It didn't do anything. Oh, it's blinking, no battery.
Advance it for you.
But I need the pointer. Oh, now it's doing it.
Yeah, just this on this one.
Okay, the proposal that I'm making is for the 2 parcels, one in Arkansas and one in Missouri, otherwise known as the Arkmo property. Oh, wrong way. Let's try again. Okay, Shelter Concepts LLC is my LLC, and I'm proposing to purchase the 366 acres for the sum of $1.1 million. There's one contingency on an access off of O'Neill Drive and on me completing satisfactory perk tests at my expense prior to closing on the property. And I am having to disclose that I am a licensed broker in Missouri and Arkansas. This property straddles a state line, so as such, the development is considerably more complicated. There's also a large section of floodplain, which I'll show on a further map. And That will require me, the first thing I'll need to do is do a detailed flood study. It is estimated that approximately 20% of the entire parcel is in flood zone. In addition, not having public water or sewer will limit the development that could be done on the property. Septics also need to be a distance off the stream and cannot be in floodplains. Okay, this shows the 170 acres that's in Arkansas, and the part of the property on the right with the orange hashes is approximately what we believe is in the floodplain, and the area on the bottom right of the orange hashes is a very steep wooded area that would be inaccessible and not developable. This, it's a different scale, so I apologize, is the Missouri portion, which is 196 acres, and that orange hashed area is also floodplain, as we believe from the maps that I have available to me now. Because it's in 2 different states, and I want to mention that this property is not currently in Bella Vista Village. It is also not in the city of Bella Vista. But the Bella Vista Community Development Department, it is in the city's development area, so they have to give approvals. And these other agencies are a number of the agencies that would have to be worked with in order to develop this property. So it's very complicated property. Okay, what are my qualifications to purchase the property? I've been a licensed realtor since 1973. I've spent 17 years as a state certified general appraiser. I also have a master's degree in regional planning, and since coming to Bella Vista, I've been very involved with the city of Bella Vista. So what have I done as far as developments? Here are 4 of the developments that I've done, the largest being 580 acres, which was on former soapstone quarry property. The one in Shermansdale was on extremely difficult topography. And in 2005, I was given an award as Green Builder of the Year by the Virginia Recycling Association. So I have extensive development experience in addition to 45 years of real estate experience. So what are my preliminary plans for development? Now, I can't give you exact numbers because I have to do the soils testing and the flood study. As it stands now, I'm proposing 1 estate parcel of 80 acres, which includes woods and meadows, probably 2 20-plus acre wooded tracts, 3 parcels of 10 to 15 acres, 9 to 11 smaller parcels. We'll also have a Bella Vista Eco Lodge and tiny houses, 10 to 15 units, and co-housing neighborhood of 10 to 15 units. This will be very well connected to the next 50 miles of trail system, for which the preliminary map is just in development. And because this is not in the POA and not subject to the ACC, there'll be exciting new architectural options. The development will be ecologically green, use green building materials and healthy house construction. And I'm proposing that each parcel would also include a Bella Vista Village POA membership lot, so all the residents can use the amenities in Bella Vista Village. Okay, this is hard to see. This lays out where all of these things are going to be. Let me see. Okay, so here's the state line going across the middle. This parcel back here would be about an 80-acre tract that's woods and meadow. The front 2 would be 10 to 15-acre parcels. These would be large wooded parcels. The co-housing would be there, the tiny houses and the Eco Lodge there. Depending on floodplain, smaller parcels here. To clarify where this is Scottsdale. This is part of the Scottsdale Golf Course. And this is Gordon Hollow Road. Orschelines and the traffic light at Walmart is up here. And here's the stream that I was talking about. That means that almost all of this over here is floodplain. some of you may be familiar with, there's an old house right at that curve, and that road often floods right there. And I have that display board here if someone wants to look at it after the meeting. So what is co-housing? Co-housing is usually a neighborhood of 10 to 20 or more dwellings where there is a common house. And in the common house, there would normally be a kitchen, often a commercial kitchen, and guest rooms. In addition, there would be a tool lending library. One of the things that makes people have to buy a big house is they want space for their guests or relatives when they come, and they need a big garage because they've got all those tools that they use once or twice a year. Well, one of the principles behind co-housing is you don't need to have all that space because the common house has a tool lending library and there's guest bedrooms in the common house. So instead of buying a 3-bedroom house, you can have a 2-bedroom house that's of a size that's very affordable, easy for you to take care of, insure, and maintain. This, oh, wrong button, sorry. Oh, okay. This right here is a project that's in Nevada City, California. Porch fronts, sidewalks, very pedestrian friendly, very socially interactive. This project is actually on Martha's Vineyard. Both are co-housing. So these are just 2 examples, and there's a big demand for co-housing. There's a lot of projects in the United States. It actually started in Denmark probably 50 years ago. There will be an eco-lodge. We need more lodging in Bella Vista, and these are examples of ecologically built homes. That's me working on a rammed earth structure. This is a building that was on my property in Vermont, and these are some other units of natural building. Okay. All righty, there we go. And tiny houses. There's been a lot of demand in the area for tiny houses, and what I'm proposing here is not the 150 square foot tiny house that's on wheels. I'm more thinking about 300 to 600 square foot houses that are built on a permanent foundation. And the neighborhood of tiny houses would be set up such that someone could live there full-time, or they could use it part-time when they're in town, and a la vacation rentals, they could rent it out. And these different residential models show that Bella Vista is moving forward into the 21st century. It will bring a lot of positive PR to Bella Vista and bring a lot of new residents and new interest in the community, in the village, and the city. Okay, benefits. Sunswept, which is the name of the community, is good for the POA, the city, and the Northwest Arkansas community. So what are the benefits to the POA? The $1.1 million cash flow, and yes, that is financed by the POA, and I would much rather pay 5% interest to the POA than to the bank down the street. This is also progressive development of excess land. The POA has had this land on the market for 3 years. There was a partial offer last year, and I'm the first person that has made an offer for the entire tract in the 3 years it's been on the market. So Sunswept is good for the POA. Sunswept is also good for Bella Vista. It will provide some exciting and bold architecture, innovative design, eco-friendly houses, and will help set Bella Vista apart as an up-to-date and visionary community in which to live, create a lot of excitement, tie into the trail, and some of the floodplain area could even be used for soccer fields, ball fields. There's also a dog agility field proposed. So that's my proposal for Sunswept on the ArcMo property. And thank you, and I'm happy to answer questions.
I don't know if anybody has other questions. We've had 2 opportunities for the board to ask questions. Any other additional ones while Linda's standing here? If not, Tom?
And we're going to have an open forum just immediately afterward, after you've, well, you're going to speak, and then I have something to present. And then we're going to open it up to the community, so I encourage you to stay around in case anybody has direct questions for you regarding the development. Okay.
I got one question. Linda, why is POA financing it? Why don't you get a bank finance?
For a couple of reasons. Number one, if I'm going to pay interest, I'd rather pay you all interest than pay it to a bank. And if I had to go out and get bank financing, I would have to lower the price that I'm offering the POA. Several of the other developments I've done have been done with lender financing, and it's worked quite well because with owner financing, because the owner appreciated getting the interest, and when each lot sells, all of the net proceeds go directly to you all first. I don't take any commissions out, I don't take any profit out, I don't take anything out until after the loan is paid off. And that time would be a maximum of 2 years, and at the end of the 2 years, should there be any remaining balance on the mortgage, I would then personally refinance it at that point.
But at this point, you want us to finance it, you're using a share corporation for us to finance it. If anything happens, you're not held responsible by the corporation. Yeah, LLC would be held responsible, not you.
It's a single-person LLC, and I'm the principal.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So this is not one additional item that came up. At 1:26 today, I received a formal offer via email. The individual who represents an investment group has asked me to keep the names confidential. But I'm going to read the email. Mr. Judson, as representative, this is an offer for the whole of what is commonly called ARCMO land, approximately 366 acres, owned by the POA, under the following terms and conditions. Upon conditional acceptance by the POA, a formal offer would be forthcoming within 7 days. Buyer to offer to buy said property for $1.2 million. No cash down. POA is to finance the offer. They would pay 5.25 simple interest per annum on a monthly basis from 12/1/17 through 12/31/20, with a balloon payment of the remaining principal balance at the time. This agreement is contingent upon acceptance of all matters of record, survey, etc., following a due diligence period to be completed by 11/15/17. Possession to be on a closing date of approximately 11/30/17. This offer will expire 8/31/17. So this came in at the last minute, and the board has been apprised of this offer. Yep. So at this time, we open it up to the community for an open forum. Since we have a number of people here, we've always held to the policy of a 3 minutes as a limit, which will time. So anybody that is willing to make a comment, please step forward and speak into the green microphone.
Yes, my name is Zita Lucas. I am the president of the Bella Vista Historical Society, and I've been a POA member for 34 years. My position, my opinion is that we should sell that property. I've heard a rumor that the board is looking at closing Kingswood and Brookstill golf courses and creating a golf course up there on the Ardmore land, and I would not agree with that approach if that's what the board is thinking. I've heard several comments this week about the beauty of coming through Bella Vista on 71 and how we would hate to lose that if those golf courses were closed and whatever thousands of dollars of fill dirt were pulled in and that became commercial property. So I hope that is not the direction the board is going, regardless of who you sell the property to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ed Hardesty, resident of Bella Vista, Realtor. It seems a bit coincidental to me that as soon as Ms. Lloyd put in an offer, you received another offer slightly more expensive, slightly more interest. I wonder, and yet we don't know who those principals are. We don't know the use of the property. It sounds to me like somebody here is putting out some information for their friends or something to be able to slide in and do something better. I would hope that wouldn't be true.
I can assure you, sir, that is not the case. The individual made a valid offer. The individual is a resident of the POA. The individual is not an employee or a board member or anybody related to that, but they are a property member. I can also let you know that prior to speaking with Linda Lloyd the first time when she first presented, we had another person that has expressed interest, and about 4 months ago, we had another group that has expressed interest. I think the market is heating up, and that is resulting in a number of people that are interested in the property. So,
My name is Stu Sorensen. For nearly 200 years, it's been a well-established legal principle that real estate should be put to its highest and best use. Wouldn't this proposal be a higher and better use for this land than growing hay?
Thank you. Any others? Randy?
Hi, I'm Randy Wyatt. I don't know if anybody knows me or not, but I've been around for 10 years. I'm an active golfer and active in the community. The Arkmo properties, with Bentonville going the way it is, with Rogers going the way it is, with Bella Vista going the way it is, I think we're very premature in accepting 1.1 million or 1.2 million. I think there's a better offer out there, and I agree with Stu that you should go for the best offer. I wasn't overly impressed with what she was going to do with the land. It's a little out there for me, but I'm very conservative. I think that when you drive down 71, every person that moves in here, that comes from somewhere else, that's never seen it before, I'm one of them. I said, look at this, look at this. There's got to be 36 holes, 48 holes of golf right here off the freeway. It's beautiful, it's green, it's beautiful. You get rid of those, I don't think the community would be as attractive. The other thing about the Arkmo land, the golfers bought the Arkmo land. I don't know how many years ago it was pre-Randy, but I've been here 10 years, and we all agreed to pay $1 more on every round of golf we played to buy that land. And I think you do justice to canvass the community more than just the board to see how they feel about selling that piece of property. I also have my own feelings about it's time to open Burksdale. Without doing the rivers, without just putting up reroute the cart path and put up a barrier and open the golf course. And if it floods again and you have to do what you have to do, I totally agree with the hydrology study. Complete and total agreement with the hydrology study. And if it says, hey, it's a lost cause, I'd buy that. But as long as it's beautiful and as long as it's dry, why can't we use it? I have some other things too. Why did we cancel why did we take the fall mixer off the schedule? I mean, I'm shocked. The fall mixer's gone. It's not on the schedule anymore.
is it still on there?
I don't know. We'll get an answer to that to you for
Would you?
next meeting or something. I don't know.
All my,
First I've heard of it.
all my friends from Broken Arrow and Tulsa are saying, hey, we were coming for the fall mixer. What's going on? So
We'll get back to you right away. I don't know. If Keith was here, we might.
It would be Philip.
Oh, Philip, I'm sorry. Okay. Thanks, Randy.
That's all.
Charles Henning. Before the vote, all I would like to know is a little more about the contingency about the O'Neill Drive and where it's blocked off with the gated thing. What does that mean to open it back up? She taught, I think she, did I say?
For only one parcel, 180-acre parcel, no further subdivision.
Private road, right?
That piece, that's not the parcel down by where the big rocks are. If you go north on McNeil Drive, there's a gate about 150 yards north of Gordon Hollow Road, and there's a gate there that crosses somebody else's property, not ours, that goes into that property. So it's not the road that you're just described. It's a different place.
Oh, it's not,
It's
it's not at the end of O'Neill Drive?
No, it's not where O'Neill Drive crosses Gordon Hollow. It's, you go west on Gordon Hollow, or on O'Neill.
Okay.
About 150 yards, and the road turns, and it's right at that turn.
Okay.
There's a gate there.
The other thing is, the tiny houses, are they in Missouri or Arkansas?
Missouri.
Thank you.
My name is Stan Moore. I'm a resident of Bella Vista. I have a question and a comment. Question, there were 4 developments mentioned that relate to Ms. Lloyd's experience in doing these kinds of developments. I was wondering, were all those developments completed, and when were those developments completed? And has she been involved in any developments closer to home rather than Pennsylvania or wherever those were? And then just a comment, co-housing looks a lot like an apartment complex. And I think to a lot of people here, it is essentially an apartment complex. So let's call it what it is. I mean, it is an apartment complex. And is that what we want? That's all.
Linda, can you answer his first questions?
Yes, all of the developments were completed, and I would like to point out that there are no apartments in co-housing. They're individually owned, detached, or attached houses, and they certainly would look better than most of the townhouses in Bella Vista. Thank you.
Okay, another?
Billy Beveridge, I'm a resident here in the Highlands, and I just going to abbreviate my questions real quick. The word on the street, word in the neighborhood, and word on the golf course is that
Sir, speak in the mic, please.
the POA has already decided to close Birchdale, then Kingswood, and then it was published in a paper that they were going to do a hydrology study, and I'm curious. And I wonder if you could address if you guys have had any meetings on
The
this.
hydrology study is the last item on the agenda. So if you hold on, you can get an update at that time.
Well, okay, but the hydrology study is going to try to make a determination as to what we're going to do with Birchdale, Kingsdale.
No decision has been made.
Excuse me?
No decision has been made.
No, I understand that. But
Not
what
regarding.
what are we looking for as to keep these complexes open? I mean, what does the hydrology study have to prove to the board to keep Birchdale, to open Birchdale back up, to keep Kingswood open? That's my concern, and maybe you'll address that when you get there.
I sure will.
Okay? And then, also, like Randy said, the land was purchased by the golfers. There was an article in this week's Vista that the POA owns it, and that's true, the POA owns it. But the golfers purchased it. It was their efforts, their money, and there was no mention of that in the paper. And I think it would be nice if there was some kind of retraction or some kind of statement in there that said that to give the golfers credit. Because, I mean, I know this community thinks that the golfers are all take and no give. And I don't believe that's true. So, thank you.
You got it.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Charles Flannery, and I am a longtime resident. I helped pay for not only the parcel of land up there with several rounds of golf, but also the extension at Dogwood Hills. I would like us to hold off on selling that land until we know what the hydrology study does, because if we have to lose property that houses golf courses now, I would like for us to be able to recoup and build another golf course. It's my understanding that there might be some property there that might be in the floodplain, but enough that still won't be, that we can build another golf course. I really would like that consideration. But anyway, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Debbie Sorensen, and I am on the Recreation Committee, and I golf, I try to golf, but I also have to say, if that land were to be used for another golf course, all the other amenities that we're trying to accomplish, expand, and bring up to date would probably stop. And I have to say that there are many, many, many amenities in this city that need some updating, and I would like to see some improvements on the updates. And to say that we're going to have another golf course or a potential golf course is probably not what the majority of people in Bella Vista want to hear.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Linda?
I just want to make one quick response. Yes, the amount of money that you get for a property is very important, but also what somebody is going to do to that property also counts. That is very beautiful meadow and woods, and you want to have something that when somebody enters Bella Vista by coming down Gordon Hollow Road from the traffic light at 71 there, that they say, wow, this is really nice. And to take that property and chop up those meadows and put in a lot of roads and put in a whole bunch of houses would be really detrimental, even if it got you an extra $100,000. Having that property developed in an ecological manner that helps celebrate the beautiful land that is there would be important too. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Can I have just a quick do over? I did say the fall mixer's off the schedule, right? I did say fall, sometime. I guess spring and fall mixed up.
The one that's coming up. The one that comes first from here. Okay, we got you. We'll get back to you on that one. Yes, sir.
And my name is Wes Garrison. I've been here for 24 years building houses. My question is, who owns common property and who pays taxes on it?
I can answer it. Are you referring directly to ARCMO? Are you referring to the ARCMO property, or are you referring to just common property?
Common property.
Okay, so the common property is owned by the POA, and the POA pays property taxes. But ARCMO has never been subjected to the governing documents, so it is not common property. But the taxes are paid by the POA. So it's a slight difference, and maybe legal counsel could elaborate on the legal differences between those.
Between common and non-common property?
Common and ARCMO,
Oh.
which is non-common.
Yeah, just that the POA owns it separately, as Tom mentioned, apart from not being subject to the Declaration and Protective Covenants. But assessments do go to pay taxes on common property and the ARCMO property.
So when I pay my POA dues, which is the lowest I've ever paid right now of $128 a month, which used to be $244, some of my money is going for that property and property taxes.
Yes, that's
Then
right.
I have to ask, why are all these people coming up here with their bikes, riding around in my backyard and not having to pay one single penny?
That was a decision that was discussed at length in the community and with previous boards, and that decision was made to allow that use of common property at that time.
Sorry, I guess I missed it. Can you tell me how I could find out what you discussed and how it was determined?
All those board meeting minutes are on the website, available for you to review. And that was, like
And
I
at
said,
what time was that? What date?
Yeah, it was over a number of months. I can point you to it if you'd like to.
Well, like I say, I've been up here for 24 years, and I've been many houses. A lot of changes in 24 years.
Yeah, I'm sure.
The bottom line, what gets me is when my grandson comes home from college for a few weeks or a month or whatever, and goes down to one of the lakes, and he lives with me or his mother, he has to pay to swim in our lake. There's something wrong with that when these other people could come up here and use my property and not pay nothing. Oh, the other thing. What happens when someone falls down or hurts himself on that property? Who's responsible for the legal fees?
Under Arkansas law, there's no liability if it's used strictly for recreational purposes. There's a statute specifically stating that there's no liability for injuries.
So, if I was to walk on this common property or the trail, fall down and break my neck and die, no one's going to do anything about it because of the way it's built?
Depends on where you're at, but essentially, yes, that's true.
One other question. I'm really curious about this. There was a platform right outside here. I don't know what it was made out of, aluminum or whatever, lightweight material. It was for handicap. It was put in there, I don't know how many years ago, just a few. Now all of a sudden it's gone. Who paid for it? And where did it go?
It was paid for by the POA. It was determined that with the renovation that is taking place to the country club, that it would no longer fit with that renovation, and we're going to go through on those paths and get them ADA compliant, but get them ADA compliant in a more aesthetically pleasing manner.
Why wasn't that done before you put it in?
Nobody at this table was here at that time.
Pardon me?
Nobody at this table was here for those decisions at that time. It's a different general manager and a different board. So we are, what we're doing is remodeling the country club and as Tom said, make it more aesthetic and improving upon that, we believe.
We've remodeled the country club, I don't know how many times in the last 24 years. Where's that money come from?
It comes from the POA assessments.
I think I've made my point.
Okay. Yes, you have. I appreciate that. Any other comments, in particular about the topic at hand tonight?
Stan Moore again, just to follow up to the question I asked earlier. The 4 developments that Ms. Lloyd mentioned, when were they completed?
I could get out the dates for you, the last one.
Roughly.
2008, 2010, and 11, perhaps.
Up in Pennsylvania, or where were they completed?
One in Pennsylvania, two in Pennsylvania, 3 in Pennsylvania, 1 in Virginia. Biggest one was in Virginia.
Okay, and you were the principal developer on all of those?
Yes, I was.
Okay, thank you.
Just one other question. When we say POA,
You need to go to the microphone.
I'm loud enough as it is. When we say POA, we're talking about us homeowners and the people that live here. When we say POA board, you're our representatives, right?
Correct.
Every time we say the POA is paying for something, that's us. And you're our representatives to approve that purchase.
Exactly right. Any other comments? All right, well, this topic has generated quite a bit of interest, not only tonight, but in other communications through emails and otherwise. So in a few minutes, we're going to entertain motions and begin discussion and vote on this. Before that, the board would like to be clear on a few of the comments and the questions we've heard, not only tonight, but in other media. First, the board is and always has been in unanimous agreement that we currently have 6 golf courses that are not fully utilized, and we do not need 7. We also know that we have our challenges of the repeated flooding of our valley golf courses. We won't go into the details of the money spent and et cetera. We've formed a special task force. We're diligently pursuing advice from the Corps of Engineers, hydrology engineers, and other experts, and we'll have a motion to fund that later and more discussion and answer some questions we had on that. No decisions have been made. We're gathering all the expert advice that we can. We recognize the tremendous recreational value, attractiveness, and high visibility of our valley and all our current assets, and we're committed to exploring all avenues toward finding the best possible long-term solutions that are in the best interests of our property owners. We're considering all POA assets and all possibilities for assuring attractive, sustainable, high-quality amenities for all our property owners far into the future. For the issue on the table this evening, the issues now 2, the board will consider these offers for the Arkmo property based on 3 criteria. 1, our best judgment of the merits of these specific proposals. 2, our best judgment of both the current and potential future value of the land. And 3, how can we best assure that the maximum actual value is realized for our property owners? So we'd like to thank Linda and the other anonymous offer that we have. We appreciate that, and with that being said, I'll open up the floor to the board for motions.
I move that we decline to accept both offers. First of all, the offer from Sunswept LLC, and also the anonymous offer.
It would be, well, it would be Shelter Concepts LLC.
I refine that to, or revise that to say, refuse the offer from Shelter Concepts LLC and the other anonymous proposal as well.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Open for discussion.
Since I made the motion, my main concern is, regardless of the type of developments or the pricing, my main concern is that I really am hesitant to authorize our community, our property owners association, to finance properties of this size and to finance them in total up front with the potential risk that if the property sales do not develop, then perhaps the property owners would end up with the residual lands in some form or fashion and make it more difficult to accommodate future sales. Just one of my points. I also feel that with the proposal from Shelter Concepts, that in reality, the POA is the developer because we hold title to the land. In my opinion, Shelter Concepts would merely be acting as our agent to get the approvals necessary, and then as parcels were taken down from us as the owner of the land or a developer, in the way I put it for the POA, that we really remain the developer in this case, and I really don't feel like the POA is in a position to become the developer, let alone at this point the landlord of the property.
My reason for voting against accepting the bids is that I feel these property needs to be held in reserve because of the uncertainty that we're facing in the valley right now, I don't think we can give it up. It's much too valuable a resource, and we have no idea what the hydrology study is going to lead us to do. And trying to be responsible to all property owners, resident and non-resident, we have to turn it down.
Other comments from other board members?
I think the problem I have with this development is, one, like Jim said, we are responsible for the whole financing of this property. And Linda have already made a lot of mention about some of the hollow area, some of the swamp area that might not be developed. If she end up not getting people to occupy those spaces, we are stuck with it. And moreover, what Linda is proposing was done in Pennsylvania. The environment and the demographic of that area is different from what we have here in Bella Vista. It might be a good idea in Pennsylvania, but it might not be a good idea in Bella Vista. I mean, there's a different clientele around here that you have to look at it and consider that and see whether those kind of clientele exist here as opposed to Virginia or other areas where you have mostly students. You have campuses and all that can occupy such a, use such a building. At this point, I think we are selling ourselves short if we sell that property for 1.1 million or whatever it is. That's my major concern about it. We are selling it cheap. Two, what we are trying to develop there might not work here in Bella Vista. And three, we'll be stuck with the bill if something happened to the property or something, anything happen. We POA minus being a board member, I'm also a POA member. I'm stuck with the bill. So I definitely am against it. That's my main reason.
Other comments? It's Ruth?
Obviously, with the interest or the sudden interest, it's obviously worth more than what's being put on the table if we have offers come in at a higher rate. My concern is the price being too low, but more importantly, I don't believe in financing for the POA. I think very strongly that we need to get out of that business or stay out of that business.
It's worth pointing out that the last time there was an appraisal, a formal appraisal on the property was in 2014, and the appraisal was 1.5 million. Any other comments from the board?
Unlike other members of the board, I really like the concepts that Linda is putting forward. The tiny houses, I think has got some connotations that we don't like to use, but just small houses that are actual, where you're using all of the house and rooms are not sitting empty. For common housing, I think it's a great idea. I love the idea of greenhousing. If I had the capability and money, I'd do solar energy or wind energy or whatever. So the concept that she is offering us is something that I find very attractive. However, I think that the purchase price is significantly less than the value of the property. Not necessarily in dollar terms, although that's a big issue. But that is, when we received the offer last year, the people that were going to build the horse farm, you know, Ron Stratton made the point that selling it puts an end to having it. It's a resource that we no longer have available to us. And I think that we have to safeguard, you know, we are in a confined area. You know, we are not going to buy property outside of the POA and outside of the city when we need other resources. We've done that once with the ARCMO land, and I think that we have to protect that investment. Secondly, I am not in favor, well, I'm not in favor of selling the property at this point in time because there are too many variables in place that it's not going to take much for us to make the wrong decision. And so we have to gather as much data as we can possibly gather so that we can best represent the community.
Any further discussion among the board? All right, we have a motion on the table to reject both offers that have been presented to us, and it has been seconded. All in favor of that motion? Any opposed? Unanimous. Linda, I'd like to thank you for your offer and the effort that goes into it, and we appreciate the time that you've taken with us. And now I will entertain any other motions.
Yeah, I would like to make a motion that we take the ARCMO land off sale. Obviously, it's the general consensus of the board that our situation in the valley means that we need to protect this land, or the usage of this land. So I make a motion that we take it off the market.
I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second that we, at least for the time being, take the land off the market. We hear discussion.
Well, I'm in favor of that. I'm in favor of that motion. I think we can start by taking down the sign that says 366 acres for sale and with a phone number. And I think that what we should do is make a note on our board calendar that pending the completion of the hydrology study and the input from the community as to what that hydrology study tells us and what it therefore means for the community, that we can then once again consider doing something, but don't entertain any offers whatsoever until after December of this year.
Josh?
Yeah,
Nope.
I heard a gasp from some people I know in the audience, and I think my position is fairly well known that this community only needs 5 golf courses. And it would be difficult for me to ever support building a golf course there, but we do need to keep that option open until we make the decisions of what we're going to do in the valley and decide what our master plan ends up being for golf.
I didn't mean to imply that that building another golf course was the reason for its retention. But the reason for its retention is its value to us.
Joshua had his hand up.
I'm against it. We need to leave it open for sale. If we get a good offer for it, we sell it. I mean, getting an offer and selling it is 2 different things. But we need to still leave it in the market and see what we can get out of it. Closing the door right now, we don't know when the real estate market is hot or when it's cold. To me, the best way is to leave it in the market and continue to entertain any offer that we can get from it. If the offer is good, yes. If the offer is not good, like we did, we reject it.
And the one comment,
I think that land represents, for the POA, a strategic asset, and that's the way that we ought to view it. I don't necessarily think it needs to be up for sale. And when word gets out, okay, they may or may not approach us, but never say never. If somebody comes up with the right price, we may want to entertain that. But again, I look at it now as a strategic asset because so much is going to be going on in the valley over the coming months, and there's going to have to be a lot of hard decision-making relative to the valley and what ultimately happens there.
Ruth?
I know we're going to talk about it later. However, I want to be perfectly clear in my understanding that just because the hydrology study comes in at the end of the year doesn't mean that's over. That it's, after that's going to be the discussion with the community and the decision, et cetera. So we're not talking the end of December. We're probably talking 2 or 3 months after that. So to tie it down to any particular date, I think is premature.
Difficult. I think in this discussion, it's worthwhile saying a few things about the whole thing with the flood and all this. And I keep hearing the same things. Oh, the board has already made up their mind about this or that, and we've already some secretive thing going on. None of that is the truth. The fact is that we have a valley that has now experienced 7 floods in 7 years. We've spent $2.2 million on it so far. To get it back up now, our latest bid is $562,000, and that doesn't count permitting, is that correct? And then, of course, when the next flood comes, all that would be wiped out, and that does not include the infrastructure kinds of things that may need to be done with bridges, et cetera. So we're just facing that fact. We don't like it either. Nobody likes it, but things have changed in the entire size of the area, and it seems to be a pretty consistent fact. So we are trying to be to investigate this with as many experts as possible, as just say stop. Again, think if you had your home that 7 years in a row you had to spend $25,000 to repair from a flood, no matter how much you love that home, at some point you might say, let me think this through, or do I just put into my family budget $25,000 a year forever? What do you do? So we are going to get all the expert advice we can. Now, we don't know what that will say. Will it say we have a magic cure to make sure the valley never floods again? Or will it say, these are the kind of floods you can expect, these are the costs that it would be for these kinds of floods, here are things you can do, you can't do? We'll have a lot more information. So we're trying to be as creative as possible, as extensive as possible to say, what do we need for the long-term future? We want tremendous public areas and assets for all. We want golf courses. We already have 6. We don't need 7. 5 is probably the right number, but 6, if we could try to grow it, we don't know exactly. We can study that more as well. We're not trying to do additional golf courses at the expense of recreation or something. What we want is, we sure know that valley is a tremendous asset. It's very visible. Everybody comes through. Whatever is going to be there, and the golf courses, Randy's right, they look tremendous. And whatever's there, golf courses has got to be tremendous. But we also want to keep available all possibilities that we may have until we can get as much data as possible. We hope to then at some point be able to come to the community and say, here are some real possibilities and options that people can consider and the costs associated with each of those. I mean, I suppose it could be simple just to say, okay, it's going to be $500,000 more a year to keep those 2 golf courses open, and whatever we need to expect for bridges, et cetera, and so we'll just increase the cost of golf by that amount. That would be simple, I suppose. But we're trying to look at every possible way to make sure we can see a tremendous future for Bella Vista with the assets we have and all the recreational opportunities that we can provide for people. So I know that was long, but I don't know how to say it any better when I hear all the time you've already made up your mind. No, we haven't. We're getting information. So anyway, there's a bit off the topic. Anybody else with comments about whether the proposal on the table is that we take the Arkmo property off the market? I don't think you've set a specific time. You just said for the time being until the board might decide otherwise?
At some point, we'll vote to put it back on.
Okay. And we've had any other discussion? I'll be quiet. All right, we have a motion and a second that for, until the board would decide otherwise, that we would take the Arkmo property off the market. All those in favor? Opposed? 1. Motion carries. Any further motions on this topic? All right, we'll move on to what is usually the more boring parts of our monthly board meetings, and we will go through where are we? Financial report. Dwayne, you're up.
That boring comment had nothing to do with
Sorry,
Dwayne.
I love that board.
We like to see the.
These are like my kids, these numbers are. Well, this is the year-to-date, July 2017, 7 months. We're starting with the POA. I'm going to start with the income section. Looking at variances, the major variances, 7 months running. Investment income is better by 265. Market activity is 180,000 of that number, and realized gains are 85,000. Past due collections, 242 better than what we had budgeted. Legal's bringing in 216 of that number. Accounting, 26. Donations received, the Walton Family Foundation Skills Park, 107,000. Fly Tires Club, 10, better by 180. Facility use fees are better by 106. Photo IDs are 56,000. Recreation fees in lakes make up the balance. In golf is down by 166,000 due to the flood activity we've all been talking about. Looking at the same variances but changing to prior year comparison, past due collections are better by 346,000. Legal, another big month or another big number, 251,000, accounting 95 of that. Food and beverage are better by 265. Lake Point was not in existence last year, 173,000 of that number. Golf brings up the balance. Donations, again, 180. And assessments are down 206, mainly because we have past due collections in another area where you can see that number up there is 346. Looking at the expense section, this is a sim POA, 7 months running. Compared to budget, employee benefits are better by 345,000, again due to health insurance and payroll taxes. We've seen that trend all year. Salaries and wages are better by 243,000. Open positions and just planned savings and maintenance and repairs are better by 142,000 due to savings across the divisions. Looking at prior year comparisons, major variances. Employee benefits, again, 263, the same reason before. Bad debts are better by 108 due to all of our collection efforts. And salary and wages are higher by 336 just due to the fact that 2017 budget had more positions than the 2016. Looking at EBITDA, and EBITDA around here stands for earnings before income taxes, depreciation, and allocations. You can see that number that's circled right there, 1,508,000. And the way that number comes about is all of these different divisions. Food and beverage, all the way down to general income, you can see all the numbers. Food and beverage mainly, and you'll see the reasons in just a minute, but you can just kind of look at the numbers and see what makes up that 1.5. And let's come over here and look at a little more detail. Food and beverage, these are the monthly variances. We've added that. We haven't done that one before. And then these are the year-to-date, the same number you saw over there. Just looking at some of these numbers. Food and beverage, well, that's a big negative number, but Lake Point and the Country Club opening, it opened different than what we had budgeted for. That's a lot of that number, 212,000. Clubhouses are better by 35. Clubhouses expense savings account for 36, excuse me, too fast. Account for 37,000 of that number. We'll kind of go through each one of these. Golf pro shops are down by 52, but that's the flood impact. But although the revenue was down, the expense savings was 178,000. Golf maintenance better by 251, and golf maintenance expense savings alone was 240,000. So people are watching their incomes, they're watching their expenses, and they're doing a very good job. You can see this all the way down the line. Recreation, increased income of 58 after you take out the 170 donation, which is not cash, it's land, or it's improvements, land improvements, and expense savings in recreation is 130,000. This may sound boring, but these are all good numbers. These green things are good, either increased revenue or decreased expenses. These are very good numbers. MAC is a 220,000 savings in expenses. Lakes and parks, we keep going, 84,000 savings in expenses. General manager's office saves 23,000 in expenses. Down to communications, 64,000, I think that's 64.
oh, excuse me, 6,000 increased income and 63,000 expense. The thing was flipping on me. Legal is 288,000. We saw the collections and the lot sales, and expense savings are 22,000. Accounting, 21,000. Income collections, better than what we had budgeted, and expense savings of 41,000. All the way down the line, membership services, expense savings of 65,000. I know for sure that they save a lot on their part-time people. If they don't have a lot of activity, they'll send them home, and they're happy to have them. We do that all across the POA. We make expense savings to try to help you, the members, to keep the income the best we can and the expenses as low as we can. Anyway, you can see these numbers. The 1 month alone, the 1 month in July, we had $171,000 positive into that number. That's based on what we had budgeted. Looking at this a little further, take out the non-cash donations. We talked about that 170 Walton Family Foundation donation. That's in this number right here, 352. Okay, we're going to take that one out. Then we come down here, and what the EBITDA adjusted cash generated by operations year to date, that's what we've actually generated, is $1.337558. $1,337,558. And you can see over here, one more step further. The 1,508, the EBITDA, we had budgeted 96,000. You can see that number right up here. And these are round numbers because they have some rounding in them. But 96,000 was what we had budgeted to be on EBITDA at this point in time, 7 months running. EBITDA right now is $1.6 million. That's the difference. That's at 1,058. That's that 1,508 difference between those two numbers. Actual cash generated, 1,602 versus budget 96, increase of 1,508. Taking out that donation, actual cash net is 1,338 of additional cash generated year to date. The POA, you the membership, the POA is doing very well. Moving on down to simple cash flow, you can see this number. This is the very bottom line after you take out capital projects and add all the other different things. $1.8 million in actual cash. Budgeting, 202. Prior year, 1,550. We're better than prior year. Very good. Looking at the water utility, same period, 7 months running. Year to date, we're going to look at the income side. These are the variances from revenue against budget. Investment income here is better by 116. Market activity is 68,000 of that number. The realized is 48. Water sales, 95,000 better than budget. That includes new connections too. With the growth of all the different, the village, it's coming up with the POA. Water capital buy-in fees are better by 85,000 due to building permits. Looking at the variance against prior year, water sales are better by 116,000. Water capital buy-in fees are better by 110, and investment income is down by 102. Market activity last year was a little better, so we're down by 131, although realized gain was 29 positive. Looking at the expense section, water again, employee benefits, we saw that in the POA side, better by 58,000. Salaries and wages, better by 46. Vacant positions, some savings. Maintenance repairs, better by 36. System repairs. Prior year comparison, employee benefits again, health insurance and payroll taxes, better by 36. Maintenance and repairs, system repairs, better by 34. Supplies, maintenance supplies for those repairs up there, better by 28. And then maintenance service agreements are slightly higher by 26 due to software contracts. Looking at EBITDA on the water, don't have the breakdown because it's just the water by itself, but it's 426,000 better. With budget be 1,345,000 at this point in time, we're 1,771. POA and water is doing very well. Simple cash flow, 414,000, budget 96 against prior year 531. That concludes my report. Pending any questions? Yes.
Well, my question here is, the numbers are great. Why is there such a large discrepancy? Sorry. Why is there such a large discrepancy between the actual number and the budgeted number?
Well,
in several of those cases that were shown on the screen. I mean, you're talking about $1,500,000 difference between an actual number and a budgeted number. That's a big number.
It would depend upon the project that we decided that we were going to do in the budget. We'd have to go into extreme detail, and I'd rather sit down with you and go through it. And
That's fine.
not that it's in a closed session, but I'd have to explain it in great detail. But we planned differently this year than last year.
Follow up on your point, though, I'll say two things. One, I'll say what my board chairman would always say to me when I was running a business, and in particular if our results look good, he'd say, you better budget better next year. So I'll say that one. On the other hand, I will say, though, I'm very much appreciative and proud of what we've been doing. One of the reasons that we hired Tom was for his financial acumen and for his experience in efficient management. We knew there were things that could be done efficiently, and I believe he's learning. You know, you're always a little bit tied to the way things were budgeted in the past. So I would say maybe we give him a little break for a year or two to kind of learn how to implement his own way to get, you know, a good, in all, the results are good, but clearly it would be better if they're all closer to budget so we can plan a little better.
One of the things that I'd like to see, if we could, Dwayne, it's, I wrote you the email. I'd like to see some calculation of revenue or loss of revenue for the number of golf rounds that are played. It's just it's because I can relate better to that. I know that it's difficult to do. I know that there's, you know, a lot of guesswork in it, but at the same time, it would help me to understand what's going on with regard to, you know, the golf.
That's probably a pretty good idea, even not only for golf, but for everything, because I think often the community doesn't understand this, and they think in terms of, well, each thing we do is a profit center, et cetera. It's not exactly like that in a POA. Right. Virtually all of the things we have together, all of our recreational assets, are paid for right now roughly equally between our monthly assessments and our user fees. So in other words, every user fee you apply, whether it's playing a round of golf or going to the swimming pool or tennis or anything that you do, the fee that you pay does not have to cover the entire cost of that, because we also have a source of revenue that is our monthly assessments. So you can always on those look at different ways. You can say, well, golf certainly generates the most revenue of all by a lot, but it also, because it's so big, gets more supplement than anything else. So you can do it by, as a percentage, it's actually a quite high percentage of golf is paid for by user fees. So there's a variety of ways you can look at it, but people should understand that in general, we are not, if we were a pure profit center without that source of income, it would look different. But all of us pay a monthly fee in order to have access to all the things we have, and then in addition to use certain things, you pay a fee to use them. Now, some of those are not amenable. It's hard to charge a fee to walk the parks or use the playground equipment and that sort of thing. But something like that for you and everyone in the community might be helpful. Tom and Dwayne, you think?
We can make it happen.
Okay.
You know, and at the same time, as you said, it's a matter of looking at all of our amenities. You know, it would be, and it needn't be done on a monthly basis. You know, but it might be done, let's say, on a quarterly basis or a bi-monthly basis, where you would look at activity, at the number of people that are taking advantage of the recreational facilities, like Reardon and Branchwood and, you know, even in Metfield. But those types of numbers, at least for me, help for me to understand how are our amenities working, you know, and I know I can't understand them.
The numbers are too small for him.
You know,
Bigger numbers.
I'm just,
Okay.
I apologize for
good.
being ignorant. But
All right, any other comments on, yes, sir?
Yeah, I have a question, probably more for Tom than Dwayne.
Sorry.
The savings in payroll is fantastic on paper. Is it hurting our performance in serving the members yet, or are we still keeping up?
You know, I think if you've been to these board meetings, you've heard me say a couple times that over the last several months is that the job market right now is so tight. We've had, throughout the entire season, 20 to 25 positions that have gone unfilled. We're doing everything we can to recruit, but it's gone unfilled. So you're correct. In some cases, it is impacting either the service or the product that we provide. Maybe the golf course isn't as good looking as it should be, or maybe the service when you walk in to one of the outlets is not as on point as it should be because we're struggling to get staff members. So some of the savings that we demonstrated up there, it's true savings, but it's not wanted savings, if you could phrase it that way. I would have rather have spent that money than saved it, because in some cases the service or the product is not at the level that I would want it to be for our property owners and our guests. With that being said, there are some department heads that have been able to specifically cut back in certain areas, and those are true savings. What I like in going through the financials is how each department is looking at every single expense that they are spending money on. A lot of savings you'll see if you drill down to the nitty gritty. You'll see savings in supplies, in repairs and contracts. They're going through and they're grinding those numbers down to a lower level, and I commend all the department heads. We're almost every single department head is at or better than budget, which is really a fantastic year.
And Tom's implemented a lot of new systems in how we're budgeting here. So, okay, any other comments on the budget, financial review? All right, then, response to previous open forum comments. There were none, unlike this week, this month. There were none last month to comment on. So we move on to the Joint Advisory Committee reports. Lakes, is somebody from Lakes here?
I have the stuff, rec off the check.
Okay, so John will do Lakes in a minute. If we can go on to Rec.
Debbie's here.
Debbie is here, okay.
Debbie's here.
I'm Debbie Sorensen. I'm on the Recreation Committee, and this last month we did planning, and we've turned everything over to Tom for our proposals for 2018, and hopefully Tom will agree to most of the, well, I should say the board will agree to most of the suggestions.
And I should be getting the plans for Branchwood within the next 2 weeks.
That would be great. Super. Thank you.
You want to do Lakes now?
Yeah, I'll do
we'll
Lakes
get to
now.
Golf in a minute, Bill.
The Lakes Committee met yesterday. Reports from staff. The Lake staff spent a tremendous amount of time on Loch Lomond doing weed harvesting. They hauled off approximately 50 dump trucks worth of vegetation from the Triley Park area. There was a report of a septic influence on Loch Lomond. That area was tested, and all of the limits came back successful. There's a long list of all the work that they did. The big news for the Lakes Committee coming up is there are 2 planned lake drawdowns this winter, I'm sorry. There are meetings on 8/29 and 9/14. If if you live on Loch Lomond or Lake Avalon, you need to come and find out what's going on. Then the other thing, we had several guests that were discussing wakeboard boats. There was quite a conversation about bigger and faster boats and the size of wakes on the lakes. The Lake Committee has assigned a couple of members the task of doing a little more work this year and coming up with some recommendations, and we hope to see those sometime in the near future. And that would be, they also was quite a bit of work finishing off their capital projects list, which I do believe is also turned in.
On the Lakes, the Rec and the Golf Committee did a fantastic job submitting their budget proposals for 2018.
Great. Bill, you going to do golf?
name's Bill Barr. I'm the chair of the golf committee. We met on August 9th, 2017. Under golf course maintenance, progress on Highlands, we're on track to be complete by mid to late September. Snack bar will open at the same time as the golf course. Collars are almost complete. Final sod has either been laid or is very near to being laid. Bunkers are ready for spraying in the week of 8/14. Cart pass will be scheduled for the end of August. It'll be done by Hutchins, who's a contractor, was also the contractor at Scottsdale. Under other maintenance, Burksdale is being maintained as a golf course, even though it's closed. However, there are safety constraints in getting the large mowers to the 2 holes near Casey's. As a result, they're using smaller mowers and mowing all grass the same height. Number 7 green at Scottsdale is filled in with no additional remediation is needed. Number 8 green at Country Club, surface is improved with the use of the fan in the cooler weather. It's going to be aerified, I believe, this week. Some additional seating may be required after the cleanup of the green. The green should be open by the end of September. Under golf operations, Philip Wright reported that the golf course ratings and handicapping has been done for Scottsdale and Highlands. There's been some problems getting a rating team out here. They're working on getting the rest of the courses rated as soon as possible. There was a tournament, Golf for Kids. It's a large community tournament, brought in $75,000 in revenue. And there was also a meeting held for all group leaders concerning the group sign-up process, which has now been lengthened, which should enable us to book more regular rounds. Another meeting is being held on August 23rd for the people that didn't make the last one. As Tom said, we turned in our budget request. Recommendations were approved unanimously by the golf committee. And if you want to go online and see the golf financials, the USGA report, and the budget proposals can be seen on the POA website. I'm not going to read them all night because it's several pages long. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. The young residents did not meet in the month of August, so we move on to old business. Tom?
Before we pass there, the Young Residents Committee is soliciting for more members. You can contact Kendall in Mr. Judson's office if you're interested.
Good.
Next on the agenda, old business.
Let me pause at the end of the committee reports just 1 minute here, if I may. I want to both thank David Welchel for his extra efforts on the remodeling of Highlands Golf Course. He spent a lot of gratis time out there working with the contractors as we are redoing the bunkers and redoing the collars into a Bermuda grass. And then at the same time, I'd like David to just give a short report of the progress of that work, if you would.
Well, thank you, Jim. I enjoy helping Keith and his entire staff into making our golf courses as good as they can be for everybody that goes out there and plays. What we've done out of Highlands, as everybody knows, and Keith is really the guy in charge. I've just been giving him a little bit of help and advice here and there. We put our heads together. We've done all the collars. They are all sodded now. The bunkers on the back 9 have all been cleaned out, and the gravel has been put in those. And forgive me, I wasn't out there this week. I've been elsewhere working. They're going to be probably spraying the Billy Bunker liner method within the next few days if they haven't started already. We have to. They have to be dry. So. Right. They have to. Once you put the gravel in there, you have to get it down to about 95 or 90-some% dry before you can spray it. So we spent a lot of time out there working with a contractor, a very good contractor that has done some wonderful work. Do we want to talk about 16T? The other thing that we did while we were out there is one of the worst tees on the entire golf course property is the 16th tee at Highlands. I don't know how many of you are that familiar with that tee. It was a very small tee that took a lot of wear and it wasn't very level. So we rebuilt that tee in the last couple of weeks, and I think when you go out there to play it, you'll see that it's a great new tee in the style that we'd like to see on more of our courses in the future, something that gives Keith and his crew the opportunity to maintain a better teeing surface for us that's level. Something like, if you're familiar with Dogwood, the 18th tee over there is pretty bad. We're going to fix that one the same way one of these days, but we've done very well out there. The contractor is on schedule or maybe a little bit ahead of it so that we can get the golf course open on or about October 1st, I think, is the target date. Thank you, Jim.
Maybe I'll point out just briefly, David's the newest member of our board. David is a golf course architect, has built and maintained golf courses all around the world, a tremendous help to us. I don't know how much it would cost if we were having to pay you as a volunteer. We have just a tremendous amount of experience around this board that helps us do all of these things that are not easy answers. They're not easy questions. Jim designed most of Bella Vista with Cooper Communities for decades, and we pulled him out of retirement and say, please run for the board. Ruth's been, I'm not going to go around to everybody here and take a lot of time, but all I would say is with the people around here and the experience we have, and then we can go out and get other additional experience, it helps tremendously when we tackle these big problems like the flooding valley and everything else we're doing. So we appreciate all of you guys, your willingness to put in as many hours as we're all putting in now with these challenges we face. So thanks. All right, old business?
Next on the agenda, old business. This would be the second reading, proposed change to the timing of the board meeting schedule by 1 week. This would require a revision to policy 1.07. At the last work session, Mr. Lowry pointed out that we needed to drop the word normally, and that has been since dropped. This would be the second and final reading of this. And just to notify to the property owners, what this modification would do is it would delay all the meetings by 1 week. So the work session, instead of taking place in the second week of the month, would take place in the third week. And this meeting, instead of in the third week, would take place in the fourth week. What this will allow us to do is it allow us to insert a new accounting procedure which will allow us to review the financial documents in a preliminary status and to make corrections before we go final.
You want to do the motions or you want me to do it?
You can call for it.
What?
You can call for it.
Okay, call for a motion.
I move we accept the revision to the meeting schedule as was stated.
The revision to policy 1.07.
Yes, that's what I meant.
And I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes, it will begin in the month of September. At the end of this meeting, Ron will read off the meeting dates. Lynn, if you could reference that, I'd appreciate it. But we will e-blast it out to make sure that nobody shows up on the third Thursday for this meeting next month. Next up on the agenda.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Got ahead of myself. Next up on the item on the agenda is a capital project. This is a new AC unit for the kitchen at Lake Point. With the opening up the restaurant, we had to modify the hood system, which proved to be a large challenge. And with the modification and the addition of skirting around the outside of the hood system, it has generated a tremendous amount of heat. So the crew, once it really got hot in the latter portion of July and first portion of August, our crew was working consistently in 115-degree temperature. We had a gentleman that almost passed out. And so we quickly went and installed a new AC system, unfortunately to the tune of $28,000. We tried to mitigate the expense as much as possible by doing as much of the work, a lot of the electrical work we did in-house, which saved us some money, but we were able to move pretty quick. We did use an AC company that we've used often in the past, so we know that their pricing is fair and reasonable.
All right, hear a motion.
I make a motion to retroactively approve the safety-related capital expenditure of $28,000 for the installation of an AC unit for the Lake Point kitchen and to waive the free bid requirement.
I'll second.
All right, motion and second. Do I hear any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
We appreciate it. Last item. This is an update on the Valley Task Force. We have multiple members of the Valley Task Force. We have Keith Imes here, we have Jim Abrahamson, and David Welchel are all part of the Valley Task Force, and we've been working hard over the last several months, and we've had countless meetings with different engineering companies. We felt it was important that we speak with local engineering companies. We wanted to make sure that the companies we spoke with had direct knowledge and have directly worked with Little Sugar Creek. At one point early in this stage of our research, we were contacted by a company that was out of state, but we did not feel that it would be wise to work with a company that did not have on-site knowledge. So the companies that we interviewed were FTN out of Fayetteville, Burns McDonald out of Springdale, CEI out of Bentonville, and Craft & Tull out of Rogers. Now, some of these companies are rather large, and so we were working with their local outlet, not necessarily on a national level. We were very impressed with all of these companies. All of them were very professional. The experience that they possessed was very impressive. In addition to those meetings with those companies, we also met with the city of Bella Vista because in the coming years they're going to have to do FEMA, they're going to have to do surveying of the city that would be FEMA compliant. And we were able to determine that some of our goals overlapped. So for this project, some of the goals overlap, but in other instances, the goals are specific. So we came to an agreement where when the scope was the same, the city and the POA would equally split the expense. And for instances where the scope was individualized to one entity, that entity would cover that expense. In addition to that, the city of Bella Vista and the POA also met with the Corps of Engineers. We were trying to see if we could get funding through the Corps. Unfortunately, their time frame is 3 to 5 years just to do this study, and that's just not acceptable. So in speaking with the 4 engineering companies, we asked them all to submit proposals. Craft & Tull declined. They decided that the work was out of their comfort zone, and so they did not submit. But all 3 of the other companies submitted a proposal. We felt that Burns McDonald was the one that we had the most comfort with and was the lowest price. Now, the city of Bentonville is going to consider authorizing. The city of Bella Vista is going to consider authorizing the funds for the H&H, the hydrology and hydraulic study, at their August 28th meeting. Now, what I did was, what we did as a group, we ended up receiving bids from all the companies as to if we did the joint work, or if we did it individually. The joint work included additional work that the city wanted to do. and just for the POA, it was a little bit more limited scope. But we wanted to do it both ways, because what we didn't want to have happen is we come forward to the board and ask for the $1 amount, and then the city go and they have their request for funding, and what would happen if the city decided that they didn't want to join us. Then we would be delayed another month, and we didn't want to have that happen. So we went and asked for them to provide us with 2 proposals, one if we worked jointly with the city, and one if we did it all on our own. Now, the one by doing it on our own costs more. There's a $20,000 savings by doing it together, which would be good, and we'd get additional information, but we also don't want to be delayed any further. So the first proposal, where we work jointly, the POA's portion would be $90,200. If the POA were to go this alone, the cost would be $109,464. I'm proposing that we add 5% to both of these, just to cover any incidental expenses that we currently do not foresee. So what I am requesting from the board is approval for $114,900, which was the 109 plus the 5%, for this project. If at the August 28th meeting, the city does agree to become our partner on this project, then the POA would only spend $94,700. So while I'm asking the board to approve the higher amount, my hope is that we will actually spend the lower amount and take advantage of the $20,000. Finally, the proposal from Burns McDonnell states that the completion date of this study would be December 29th of this year. And as we've indicated in previous board meetings, at that point we would go to the community, present the findings. In the scope of work, we've specifically asked that they present a detailed report, but also an executive summary that would be 2 to 3 pages long, that anybody could understand. And so at that point, we will go to the community and seek their input. We've promised that we would do that, and we're going to do that. Any questions regarding the work of the Valley Task Force?
Well, yes, Pat.
Will the,
Speak in your microphone.
I'm sorry, will they be submitting interim reports?
Yes. Keep in mind that we're going to have to work very closely. This is not going to be a situation where we contract them and then they go off and we don't see them for 5 or 6 months, and then they come back and give us a report. We're going to have to work hand in hand with them, because we have on-site knowledge. And if they come back and they propose, well, one point of remediation is to raise or relocate this green, well, Keith and David are going to have to be involved in that, because they're going to help us determine what the cost would be. Yeah. So we will get interim reports as we go along, but I don't want to. I would always want to wait until we get the final report, right, the final official report.
2 comments I would have. First, appreciation for the members of the Valley Task Force and the tremendous effort and number of hours into going through working with a number of companies to make sure we work with the right one, make sure we work with the right partners in our local area, make sure that this study asks the right questions and gets us effective, useful answers. It may sound simple, but as you go through all this, and I've sat through a lot where I didn't really understand all the detail, the people that we have who do understand the engineering better, but to make sure you get the right questions asked from the beginning. So we really appreciate that. Second point is, even though this says project completion December 29th, 2017, I don't see that that means that will be the date in which we have the answer to our valley or these huge questions. That just means we have a lot of basic information that can give us options. We'll begin to present everything we do know, and from that really be working up potential options, costs, what's realistic, et cetera, and presenting various options to the community. Would you say that's a fair statement?
Yeah, when I meant project completion, I meant the H&H study, not the entire project.
Okay, so do I hear a motion?
I make a motion that we approve $114,900 for the H&H study for the 3 valley golf courses in the flood zone.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion or comments?
Just to add to that, that the selected firm would be Burns and McDonnell.
Right.
John, do you want to amend your motion to include that Burns and McDonnell be selected as the,
That's fine.
Okay.
I'll add Burns and McDonald.
Okay.
McDonald.
Okay.
Ruth just seconded.
Okay, any discussion? It's been discussed quite a lot. All right, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're to the,
Ask the community if they have any further questions regarding that.
well, I guess before I do the announcement, I'd first like to say thank you for all of you who came out tonight, expressed opinions, and expressed your interest in the things we're grappling with now, as well as the people perhaps on Facebook. 50 people are watching us streaming live on Facebook. Hope I didn't pick my nose. And so that's for a first time tonight. I think that's so we really appreciate the interest of the community, and that we are trying to find the right answers for everything. Anything else before the final?
Does anybody have any questions regarding the hydrology study? I just don't want to cut anybody off. Great.
Nope, okay. The COO board meeting will be Thursday, September 14th at 2:30 p.m. in the Country Club board meeting. This is the closed discussion meeting we hold once a month. The Board of Directors work session, open to the public, will be Thursday, September 21st at 8 a.m. at the Country Club board meeting room. And the Board of Directors regular meeting will be Thursday, September 28th at 6:30 p.m. here in the Country Club board meeting room. Have a nice evening. We're adjourned.
I think that's an hour earlier than I was expecting.